Hello, everyone. How are we? Hopefully, all of you are having a fantastic Wednesday, wherever you are around the world. I have to keep reminding myself it's Wednesday because of that bank holiday. But nevertheless, how are we? Hopefully, everyone's good. Hopefully, everyone's well. And welcome back to the Cop Council. Of course, we are here to, of course, discuss mainly tonight. And of course, this is just the main story that did broke yesterday, of course, but we are here to talk about it tonight. Is, of course, Julian Alvarez, and could Darwin Nunez be pivotal to the move, potential move, I should say, for Julian Alvarez potentially joining Liverpool, which, of course, we will discuss in tonight's episode. We'll go through, of course, obviously the main report from Sam Maguire, of course, and obviously go through his words from the article piece as well. And again, get your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below as well. Of course, it is the Champions League semi-final again tonight between PSG and Arsenal. I know plenty of people are going to be watching that, including myself, which again, if it's anything like last night's Champions League semi-final, it was brilliant, wasn't it, between between Inter and Barcelona. And realistically, any one of them could have gone through. Let's be perfectly honest as well. But again, mainly we are here to discuss, of course, Julian Alvarez and potentially Darwin Nunez as well, going in a swap deal potentially anyway. But again, let me know how all of you are down in the comments. Like I said, if you are new around here, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I believe we are close to getting 3.2k. So again, thank you very much for, of course, all the new subscribers and all of that good stuff as well. Anyway, but we're going to jump straight into it then. And we're going to discuss, of course, obviously this article piece from Sam Maguire. Obviously last night this was, as you guys can see, but there obviously it was 9 o'clock last night that this was issued out. Anyway, but it does go on to say, but the exclusive Liverpool have advantage in Julian Alvarez pursuit, as it does go on to say Darwin Nunez could be pivotal for Liverpool this summer. The number 9 is set to depart Anfield at the end of the campaign after 3 seasons with the club. The 25-year-old has found playing time limited since the turn of the year, though he did play a part of the title's success, scoring twice against Brentford and helping the Reds turn the game around against Southampton. The match against the Saints in early March was his last start for the Premier League champions, and I pretty much think that that is going to be his last start as well, I would say, for the club, because of course, you know, that whole rumor, wasn't it, a couple of weeks back, of if Liverpool starting one more time, we have to pay an extra 5 million to Benfica for Darwin Nunez, which of course, obviously Darwin himself of course came out on his social media, didn't he, pretty stupidly, and of course spoke about, didn't he, to be fair. But as it does go on to say, Darwin was subject of interest from Saudi clubs in January as an exclusive revealed by Anfield Watch. Both Al Hilal and Al Nasser tried and failed to pray the Uruguayan international away from Anfield. The player was open to the move, but Liverpool would have sold had their valuation been met as well. Of course, that's kind of a little bit in between, because of course we do know Liverpool were very close to agreeing to sell, but of course Liverpool couldn't get their number 1 target in that role in particular. Of course, that was already confirmed. But it does go on to say the Reds rejected a verbal proposal of £70 million. Anfield Watch now understands that the former Benfica man could be sold for as little as £35 million. This summer, Atletico Madrid, however, are the only team with access to Darwin Nunez at this discounted rate. As revealed in March, Diego Simeone is a huge fan of the 35-cap international, and Liverpool are huge fans of Julian Alvarez. As it does go on to say, the former Manchester City forward is viewed as someone who would be perfect fit for Arne Slot. He's a and a goal scorer. The work rate is there. He's a grafter, and he can play a variety of roles across the forward line. With a full season in England now under his belt, Slot appreciates the need for a centre forward who is comfortable receiving in tight spaces. A young Roberto Firmino would be the perfect solution. Alvarez is viewed as somebody who fits that mould. His experience in England is also a factor in all of this. He'd be able to hit the ground running running, Liverpool are prepared to be flexible with Darwin if it gives them a favourable in terms of bringing Alvarez back to the Premier League, as shown with Joao Felix and Conor Gallagher. Last summer, the La Liga club opened clever bookkeeping. Alvarez is happy in the Spanish capital, but if there's any club that could tempt him to leave after just 12 months, it is Liverpool. The club are confident that both plan in place for it if it doesn't pan out as well. And of course, you guys can go and obviously check the article piece out even more. But I think it is interesting. Julian Alvarez, we do know it's a target for Liverpool, quite clear. It's a target for the Reds, which, look, I think over time, I do think you look at Julian Alvarez output, and we will take a look briefly. Of course, obviously this season has been a big impact for him this year in terms of his development and in terms of his workload as well towards Atletico Madrid. Of just taking a look at it briefly, off screen. Again, he has hit the ground running at Atletico Madrid. Again, 27 goals and 5 assists this season in all competitions, which again, you look at Liverpool, you look at our striker position, that's definitely a position that quite clearly Liverpool need to add to goals upon. But even still, the fact that Liverpool could somehow get Julian Alvarez, that would be huge for the season. Anyway, but big up Cal as well. Hope you're doing well. Saying, with being a Liverpool fan, Atletico fan, I'd like to see Nunez and Alvarez swapped. I can't lie, Simeone plays 4-4-2, and that's where Nunez plays well in a double striker as well. Well, but that's the thing though as well, isn't it? It's the fact that they've taken time. Atletico, of course, obviously they went full in for Julian Alvarez. I think they spent, or with add-ons, of course, the whole deal was £91 million, wasn't it? 91 million euros, I think it was, which again, I think going back and in pounds, that's somewhere around in the 80s, isn't it, in terms of £1 million? But even still, we will look at his stats now, so I can look at it and you guys can look at it as well. But you do generally look at his statistics. Again, looking at City as well, pretty decent numbers, considering, again, he wasn't the main starter at City, sorry. But even again, you look at these numbers, again, I will quickly shorten them down. If you look at this season in particular, 51 goals, 51 games, 27 goals, 5 assists, 15 in La Liga with 2 assists. I think that's the more impressive one. 10 games in the Champions League, 7 goals, 1 assist as well. But even if we just, shorten that up and look at just the overall seasons, his last season at City, 19 goals, 13 assists, which I think is probably the best thing to judge him on and judge him from the Premier League, and of course look at his time at the Premier League in particular. You look at his heat map straight away, underneath me, in terms of, again, he plays everywhere, and that's what Liverpool realistically need. Liverpool need someone who can play across all the park. But I do think when we talk about players in particular who, again, will make Liverpool better next season, I do think Alvarez is in that conversation. I do think, him, Isak, I think these are the names Liverpool, again, are looking at. I think today, Fabrizio Romano, again, talking about Liverpool and strikers and saying that, once again, Isak is in the conversation as the things are right now, of course. But once again, I think Champions League might be a pivotal thing, but stopping Liverpool from getting Alexander Isak. But I also think Julian Alvarez is a perfect player for Liverpool to go and get. And just judging from these stats, again, to think he only had, as you can see there, 2 full seasons, with Manchester City, and then moved on. Again, 17 goals in the Premier League, 4 assists. And that's what, for me, I think Julian Alvarez, if we can't get Alexander Isak, I'm perfectly happy with getting Julian Alvarez, because, as Zaina said, but there, he's guaranteed 15 goals a season, and yeah, he is absolutely guaranteed 15 goals in a season. Where you look at Liverpool's forward line, and you look at Diogo Jota, you look at Darwin Nunez, I don't even think they've got above 15 together, let alone separately. So that, again, that benefits Liverpool. And of course, it takes the workload off Mo Salah, because I think we've said this plenty of times, haven't we? Where Liverpool, we've been very fortunate this season that Mo Salah's had a season above all others. Mo Salah has been elite. Mo Salah is always elite, but I'm talking about, legendary seasons, really. And I wonder whether or not, of course, Mo has spoken very highly in terms of, he's told on a slot that, look, defensively, I might not do so much, but offensively, I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to be up there in terms of top Premier League goal scorers, in terms of top assists as well. And I wonder, you look at the big chances Mo has, created this season, and they haven't been finished off. I wonder if somebody like an Alvarez or somebody like an Isak comes in, like how much difference that's going to make as well. Because I think even now, I think Mo Salah, if we had a competent striker or fit enough striker, I think Mo Salah would be already above 20 assists in the Premier League. I'm not going to lie when I say that, but bigger Bryce was saying, Jota and Nunez 11 in the league combined. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that's the case. I hope the fact that we can get somebody that's better than that, in terms of getting 11 goals in the league, which, isn't great really. Of course, it's helped us, even in that article piece from Sam Maguire where he's mentioned, Darwin's been pivotal this season in some way, because you look at it and go, well, Darwin's provided, match winners really. You look at Brentford, Southampton as well. Darwin has been in crucial moments, but again, we need more of that. But to offload again Mo Salah's numbers, and also as well with Liverpool now losing Trent. Again, Liverpool are not going to be having that player. It doesn't look like anyway that Liverpool are going to have that player that can play the ball, in the half space, and again provide an open chance really. Of course, we're going to be playing a bit differently next season, with Conor Bradley playing, and of course whoever else Liverpool bring in, of course, which will be the conversation tomorrow. In tomorrow's videos, of course, we're going to be looking at who could Liverpool sign at right back, because you look at the market, it's not really great, is it? But of course, we will look at it anyway. But Kyle says, I wonder if Nunez can be re-unlocked in the system. What once made him have 34 goals in a season? Well, I think you look at Benfica in that season. He was allowed to offload, wasn't he? He was allowed to be the lone striker up top and kind of be the guy that, again, not necessarily was the main output for Benfica, but again, he was allowed to drift into, again, half spaces. He was allowed to drift left quite a lot. I think if you look at Darwin's heat map with the last season at Benfica, it was pretty much him obviously in the striker position, but obviously slightly drifting out to the left, and obviously allowing time on the ball. But at Liverpool, we've never seen that Darwin Nunez. Of course, Darwin's played a very different role. I think this season, and I think last season as well, is where if we were going to see the best out of Darwin Nunez, I think that was then and there. I think obviously Darwin's first season at the club, we tried to still play the false nine role, which clearly Darwin Nunez isn't good at that. And he's not that type of profile, nor is he that type of striker. And that's the thing. We misused Darwin in his first year, but again, would him moving to an Atletico Madrid or moving to, of course, the Saudi Pro League, is that going to benefit him? I think so. I think I've said it to you guys on other videos. If you, of course, you're long-time viewers, I've said that Darwin Nunez going to a different league might benefit him massively. It might turn him back into that striker that we once saw at Benfica. But in the Premier League, he's not going to work, unfortunately. Which is a shame, because look, we said it, Darwin Nunez has everything, there's just that something missing, and what is that something? Again, I don't think anybody can really pinpoint it, neither. But Evening Bryce, well, hopefully you are doing well. More fake news, clickbait transfer news. I hope it's not clickbait transfer news, but again, we have to report on it. So hopefully you are doing well, mate. Big up Con as well. Hello, Ozan. Hopefully doing well. Surprised Inter aren't in for Nunez after watch watching how slow Thuram and Martinez were last night. Well, to be fair, they work together perfectly, which is another great thing. When you look at it, like, let's be honest, Inter, and to be fair, Inzaghi deserves massive credit. I think everybody today obviously is digesting how good he's done with that squad. Again, last night, Lamine Yamal had multiple chances, didn't he? To try and break down the Inter defense. Did a couple of times, didn't they? But I think obviously the big positive, I think, from Inter Milan was, again, marking him out the game. Of course, they were trying it with it was Bastoni and Mkhitaryan that were trying always to try and lock him down, wasn't it? But Lamine Yamal is special, and Barcelona will be back. I think if Barcelona add to that team, they've got to instantly be one of the favourites next season to win the Champions League. Especially with Hansi Flick in charge. I just think last night it was just one of those games that they were unlucky to lose. And I think even with Inter, I think if Inter had lost last night, I think you would have said the exact same thing. Personally, I think you definitely would have seen, whoever had lost would have been unlucky to lose. But what a game of football, what an absolute belter game of football, which, again, hopefully the PSG Arsenal game matches that tonight anyway. But look, of course, hopefully PSG do go through. Because look, I don't want to see Arsenal in the Champions League final. I don't want Arsenal to win the Champions League either. Which, look, I think if anybody says they want an English team to win the Champions League that isn't Liverpool, yeah, then nah, I'm all good, thank you. Anyway, but I got confused with Filippo Inzaghi, and yeah, no, of course they are brothers, which I think a lot of people didn't really recognize, did they? To be fair, but of course on the Julian Alvarez stuff as well, look, I think plenty of people have also brought up the point of price tags, because again, obviously Alvarez, like I mentioned, only joined 12 months ago. I believe he signed a 6-month contract with Atletico Madrid as well. But the bonus, or the good bonus for Liverpool, is of course he is best friends with Alexis McAllister, which again is great. I think the negative side of it is, of course, he is a former Manchester City player, which again does that really put into effect his decision potentially of him deciding to come to Liverpool or not. I think that's another question in itself. But again, the price tag, I think, for me, will be an interesting one to see how Liverpool, could Liverpool do it? Or not necessarily could Liverpool do it, will Liverpool do it? Because, like we said, with Isak, we're talking 130 as a minimum. For Alexander Isak, you were talking probably over 100 million quite easily, I think, for Alvarez, and there is conflicting reports of course, with La Liga, everybody has to have a release clause, and there's conflicting reports of it. I've tried to look into it, and there are every single website I have checked says he doesn't have a release clause, but according to Atletico Madrid fans, he does have a release clause, but it doesn't say how much. So it's kind of conflicting on where it is. Some people I think have said it's 160. His release clause is. Liverpool, of course, not going to go anywhere near that. But if it's so low, then you have to think, like, why? Why is it so low? Potentially, but again, Liverpool did have the opportunity to sign him last summer. As well. Liverpool, of course, obviously, I think was it David Ornstein come out and said that, yeah, Liverpool were in pretty good talks with Manchester City to sign Julian Alvarez, but of course, Manchester City wanted, they wanted Luis Diaz a part of the contract, part of the deal talks, which, again, Liverpool are never going to go and entertain that, really, unless. When the whole roller coaster of PSR was about, I don't think anyone, Liverpool definitely don't need to sell anybody for PSR because we're in the green, miles in the green for PSR. But it's kind of like, with Lucho kind of, I'm an R on whether or not he's going to leave. I think even this summer as well, there's question marks on whether or not he's going to stay or go. But I think, of course, Liverpool are not going to do that type of deal. Liverpool would look to maintain Luis Diaz and obviously then buy Julian Alvarez. But I wouldn't. If something like this happened, would I be surprised? No. I wouldn't personally be surprised because, look, Alvarez does fit the bill for Liverpool. He does very much. He would be the perfect striker. I think him, Isak, even though they are two different profiles, I think both would be excellent for Liverpool. Of course they would. But I think if we're looking in terms of a profile and looking at what who Arne Slot wants from a striker, we've seen this season when certain people have not been available, he keeps going back to Luis Diaz, who is kind of that false nine profile. And I think out of Isak and Alvarez, I personally would say Alvarez is the one, but that's just my opinion. I don't think, is anybody going to be upset if Liverpool go all in for Isak or Alvarez? No, I don't think anybody is. But I think there is when we talk about profiles and talk about, data and how Liverpool approach this, because they have to get it right. We gambled, didn't we, with Darwin Nunez, and it didn't work out. Liverpool have to get this right, because we don't, then that's terrible and trouble as well, where you might end up paying a record fee yet again for somebody who's not good or somebody who you think's not good. And of course, if it's either Isak or Alvarez, I think, look, both are excellent. And of course, like we've just looked at the stats, especially with Alvarez, again, in the Premier League, or certainly for Manchester City, he was getting 15 plus goals a season, which is what Liverpool need. That's where we need from the striker position alone. And then you look at this season, in all competitions, he's got 27 goals, which, again, in a Atletico Madrid side, who, again, are good, but also are a bit more defensive. Imagine what Julian Alvarez would be like in a more attacking style and a more attacking team in the Premier League. I think he would easily get 15 plus goals or even 20 plus goals, the way Liverpool play. Let's be honest. And a front three of Gakpo or Lucho on the left, Julian Alvarez down the middle, and then Mo Salah on the right. Sounds very, very good. Sounds very nice, doesn't it? Let's be honest. But Frimpong news, not really any. I'm not going to lie, Cal. Of course, tomorrow we are going to be talking about right backs. That's going to be a show tomorrow. I don't know whether or not if we're going to do. We might end up doing 2 shows tomorrow. Because again, I want to do a show talking about. Or it might be pre-recorded. If I get time, it would be pre-recorded video and then obviously live show after. But yeah, we're going to be talking about right backs tomorrow, really. But question is, will Alvarez want to return to life in England? Not too sure. And that's the question mark, isn't it? Would he want to leave to join Liverpool? I think obviously playing for Manchester City and that supposedly was very open to the move last summer, which, again, that's a good sign, I would say. But remember when the rumors with Lucho and Man City was getting spoken about? Alvarez was never in the conversation, and then this was a couple of weeks ago. Then David Ornstein mentioned Alvarez and Liverpool, so you never know. But again, it will depend, I think, anyway. But I'd like, I'll pick up John anyway, saying I would like Alvarez to sign for us. He is quality player. Thoughts on the new right back, and I think, again, I don't want to pronounce his name, would be a smart signing from Leipzig. Of course, obviously Arne Slot's right back at Feyenoord, which, again, we'll talk about tomorrow anyway. But, for me, right back is a difficult position. But I think, of course, there are 4 or 5, I think, that could be out there. Undoubtedly, again, Conor Bradley's going to be Liverpool's right back for next season. He's going to be. But whether or not we sign a backup or we sign equal quality is going to be interesting, because Conor Bradley's injury records, you know, and I think Liverpool will take that into consideration as well in terms of we're not going to rule out signing a top class right back, but also I just think we want to allow Conor Bradley his chance, and I think he deserves his chance. You know, look how well he's done this season. He's been excellent for Liverpool when called upon this season. But you know, again, injuries are a big thing with Conor Bradley, which I hope, you know, again, you know, he's only young. What is he, 22, 23? I hope he can, you know, turn that around, really. I think he might be younger than 22. I'm not too sure. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, but I am just quickly checking if I've missed anything from this article piece as well. But no, I haven't. But again, I think the interesting one certainly will be price. I think that is the big one, because even, you know, looking at FBref now, when you actually look at the data and look at the comparisons, whoever mentioned Inter Milan earlier, the number one player linked, obviously, the data wise in terms of, you know, comparing strikers in Europe, Marcus Thuram is actually number one with Julian Alvarez, and second is Trossard from Arsenal. So he's around that, you know, he's around that, obviously, that player that can play, obviously, the striker position, but also I think with Alvarez there is more to it, you know, in terms of being a false nine, and also someone who, for me personally, I think can also develop even more. I think how old is Alvarez? 25, is he? So he is that age, really. He's that perfect age, isn't he? Where, again, you know, he's going to turn 26 in January. So again, Liverpool for the next 5 years would have the striker. You know, Liverpool would easily. Which again, I just think Alvarez just makes so much sense. Really, but again, that's obviously for Liverpool to decide, and of course, obviously, the data team to decide as well. Anyway, but look, I am going to leave it there for tonight, guys. Big thank you for everyone for tuning in. Of course, we were just mainly talking about the Alvarez, of course, a story that came out last night from Sam Maguire, and that report. I wonder whether or not we'll see maybe in the next couple of weeks, obviously, with the transfer window opening on the 1st of June. Of course, you know, with the Club World Cup coming up. I'm not too sure if Atletico are in the Club World Cup. Actually, I'll double check that now. But it will be interesting. Let me double check. Club World Cup teams. Let's have a look who's in there. Anyway, but I hope Liverpool will, if there's encouragement that Liverpool could get a deal done for Julian Alvarez, I hope Liverpool would take it, because I think he would absolutely. You know, I think he'd absolutely be perfect for Liverpool as well. But grab your drink and popcorn for this Arsenal downfall tonight. Look, I'm not gonna say that, Ozan, but you know. No, like again, I think is Dembele not starting? Chat, I seen something that Dembele wasn't playing. I seen that he was on the bench for it anyway. But yeah, 25. Thank you, Brian. Anyway, but I'm just quickly checking the teams for the Club World Cup. I don't think Atletico Madrid are in there, but hang on a minute. Let me double check. Are Atletico in there? Because Dortmund are in there somehow. Atletico Madrid are in the Club World Cup, so that's something else that Liverpool might have to worry about if, of course, if we're going to go for Julian Alvarez, which, again, might be a problem for Liverpool, depending on it as well. But, again, I don't get how on earth Dortmund are in the Club World Cup. Jesus Christ, they must have paid somebody for that as well. But Zachary was saying good content. Thank you very much, mate. Again, if you're new, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Anyway, but yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for another episode as well. We'll probably be back for 2 episodes tomorrow. Anyway, like I said, talking about the right back position, and of course we'll talk about general news. Of course, I know obviously there's been stuff about Ibu coming out. I know that obviously we'll talk about right backs and so on as well. But that'll be tomorrow's episode for you guys. At least there will at least be 1 episode for you guys tomorrow, of course, because we'll have Arsenal preview as well on Friday. But of course, we'll have other bits coming out. Of course, obviously, videos popping out, shorts as well coming out for you guys. So obviously, I think this one coming out tomorrow morning about Angelo Stella, and yeah, just other bits and pieces flying around on the YouTube channel. Anyway, but look, hopefully, you guys have a fantastic rest of your days. Anyway, if you are new, like I said, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. But I've been Connor from the Cop Council. We'll see you guys later. Ta-ra.